Hello, welcome back to League of Inches podcast with Jesse and Trav, boys, for Supercoach Tradies final round edition. This is it, round 27. It's all coming to a close, really, isn't it? It's kind of it's fun, it's enjoyable. We've had our head-to-head finals. We'll talk about that anyway. We had some great success in our head-to-head finals, and yeah, this is it. It's going to see us off for round 27. But mate, how have you been? How's your week?
Week's been, okay. We've had some sickness in our family, so we're having to look after little girls and myself. So that's not been fun, but had a good weekend on Supercoach. Won both of my head-to-head finals, which was nice. Just little cash leagues with my mates, but cash is king. So yeah, I get the bragging rights for 6 months now until the next season comes up. Bittersweet, man. It's bittersweet. I've
Mm.
really enjoyed joining about halfway through the year, doing these with you and Joel when he decides that he's good enough to come on in for us and bless us with his presence. Yeah, so it's bittersweet. It's the last one, but we got some plans over the finals and what we're going to do in the off season for some extra potties. But yeah, bittersweet that it's the last tradie show for the year.
Yeah, it came around quick, didn't it? Around this round, the last one, you thought, oh, I suppose it was all sort of building up to it, building up, and now it's here. I'm kind of like, oh crap, what do I do next week? After finals is on, but there's nothing super coach there for it. It's a bit of a shame. You can try and keep tabs on how players score, and you think, oh shit, that's a big break. That would have been a fair few points, but it's completely irrelevant. But no, I um, I won my head to heads, so this is the big talk for the last couple of weeks, the Creators Cup that me and Joel were both part of. Um, Joel actually started this competition and ran it. So there was some big boys in this one. It was the competition that I was most keen to win or most keen to be involved in. And both me and Joel got into the final together, and I beat him this week. So, well, last week gone. So puts me at the top. Get the crown for the Creators Cup, which is fantastic. And I also won the League of Inches inaugural draft final as well. Absolute
Is
monster score.
isn't it a
So
coincidence that Joel didn't turn up?
yeah, I think he's a little bit scared. He didn't want to announce it. I won the draft final by about 300 points too. We don't play captains. We do play full squads, but no emergencies, no loops, no captains. And yeah, I scored like 1014. It was a huge score, and he waited the next day after the final round just because he was like, "We'll wait for rescores." And I was like, "You just don't want to believe it. You don't want it to be true." And
And
I just
then
spent
doesn't turn up to the show, the podcast for it.
exactly right. Yeah.
Weak,
So
weak dog, weak dog.
weak dog. Yeah, lost in the Creators Cup. I've been bragging. Well, I wasn't bragging. I wouldn't say bragging, but since round one of the League of Inches draft, I basically called it. I said, "I'm winning this draft, boys. I think we can call it right now." Got myself another cheeky couple of $100 there too. Love it. But that's the sad part is that competition is now over. I've got to wait till next year. Um, but it is what it is. What's your rank this week, mate? How did you actually score number wise?
So I got 1,290. I was pretty excited about that. I was walking through some of the different groups and where I was at and thought that was it was a quality score. So I am still, however, with that good score, I've only seen green arrows of 777 spots. So I've pushed up to 10,110. So yeah, unfortunately, I thought I'd score well. I did, but yeah, it just didn't put me up as far as I was kind of hoping for.
Mm.
I hope that my team's set up for this week, which we'll talk about. But I think my team's set up nicely for this week to push up that. So hopefully I can. My goal was to try and get to 5K, and I was building for that. But what I didn't think when I was doing that 12 weeks ago and started that preparation for the goal of top 5K, what I didn't expect or think was how tight that group of teams are from around the 3K mark, just above where your rank is, up to around the 15K. It's quite tight, and you're not
Mm.
really you're not really moving super high ranks unless you're getting incredibly big scores. Which when you
Yeah.
talk about like Joel and how quickly he moved up, he was getting some really big scores, and that's what helped him sort of get through on those couple of weeks that he got them. So yeah, what I didn't expect that. So it's disappointing. It'll be my worst rank, even depending. I think even with predictions of what I'll do this weekend, I think it'll still be one of my worst ranks I've had since doing Supercoach. So, but that's okay. I've learned a lot. I'm pretty happy with the way that I went about things. The weekend, I probably stuffed up a couple of points that I in where I've gone wrong on last weekend. I definitely got my captain choice right, Ponga with the 118.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think you can't go wrong with that, especially with what happened with Turbo. Teddy gets, I think, what did he get? 102. So the
Something like
Teddy
that.
score,
Yeah. Wasn't far
yeah.
off.
So the Teddy score 104. Sorry, the Teddy score was okay, but that Ponga 118 was much better. I said Teddy was a no-brainer captain choice, and he didn't come out. But who's to know that in the first 45 minutes the Roosters was going to have their season ended, basically. I VC'd Garrick and really contemplated about looping that, and I didn't. And so that cost me 14 points
Not the worst.
with the extra. So like it did. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. It wasn't the worst, but it is what it is. I really contemplated the Marju and Isako swap, but I was just so high on the night.
Yeah.
Winning really comfortably and things going through Marju and Bradham and Best coming back and all that I thought, this is a game. I think Marju's a no-brainer, so I'll put him on there. And obviously hindsight's a wonderful thing. And so I missed the extra 28 points there for the swap of Isako and Marju.
Mhm.
I, like everyone else, copped the Walker 8. And then my last mistake that I played was I played Plath. And look, he got a 56, but I had other options to do that. So yeah, so there were a couple of mistakes, but still got that one to 90, and very happily scored a good 160 from Dill Brown, and he saved me.
Yeah. Yeah. Massive, massive score from Dill Brown. Just repaying all the onus of the last few weeks have been pretty bad. So yeah. No, it was a good week for him to come out and score that, considering it was all the finals weeks too. So very valuable for it. But no, pretty good score. I didn't score much more than you, to be honest. I scored 1305. It pushed me up 219 spots as well. So I'm ranked 1,458 now. So getting quite close. I did want to make that 1K push, but I'm about 120 points off where 1K is at the moment. So it's not impossible. It's just going to take a really big round, and I think just a good captain, maybe. But again, everyone's got the same sort of ideas when it comes to captains this week and VCs. But yeah, last week was all right. Obviously, I don't have Dill Brown, but I did have Ponga. I had Teddy, who I captained. I had Garrick played. I had Lomax, who I VC'd, and I considered it as well. But I thought, no, I'll see this one out. It'll be okay. It was more about the head-to-head side of things with Joel just wanting to, you know, seal it and put it in the bag with that Teddy captain. I didn't want to play too many risky games and just sort of nuff it out. But that worked out well. I did cop the Walker 8 too. So it's a bit of a shame. Traded him in last week and got a total of, 75 points out of him. So that's not very good, but, it sort of is what it is. Terrell May came very handy after a long stint on my bench, not being played each week. Comes in for an 86 when I needed him, so I'm very happy with that. But outside of that, it was just a lot of middling scores. And Campbell 86. Jaden Campbell got a pretty good score as well. So there were some good ones around. Obviously, I saw some massive swings in the scoring last week too. There was like low thousands. There was 1500s. I was like, holy shit. It's a big week to move. Even in the top 10, there was a fella that jumped about 20 odd spots. And a lot of shuffling happened around there. So, yeah, it was overall, I suppose, pretty good. I scored more than Joel. That's the key point to take from this one. And he's obviously not here because he's licking his wounds. We can very briefly go team list wise. There's not a great deal to touch on. There wasn't as much resting this week as I sort of expected there to be. I think with the amount of teams that are still in contention for a spot in the 8, spot in the 4, no one's really comfortable besides Melbourne to be taking, weeks off. So for the Broncos and the Storm, really, Payne Haas is out. Reece Walsh has been out for a little while. So Fletcher Baker starts in his spot. And for Pappy, Farlongo's a fullback. So I love that for them. That's he's a great replacement. They've always got someone ready to go for fullback, which is fantastic. But the rest of the team is as it is. Rolling into Spoon Bowl, the Tigers versus the Eagles. This is a blockbuster of a game. I'm so eager to see how this game plays out, honestly. There's so much at stake for him. What's happening here with this one? Aiden Caesar is in. There was stuff about him being injured, but I suppose he looks like he's actually in still. Latu Fine is expected to start at halfback, so he might actually drop out. Alamalo will miss the game for the Eels. Sean Russell, Kelman Lunky is set to return. So a bit going on for these guys as well. Isaac Tungo's dropped out. Sean Lane will start at prop. So did I say Isaac? I meant Jake Tungo. Sorry. There has been no late season switching for those two. Stop me if there's anything you want to talk about, my man.
Oh, look, I can't believe that the only real game that I want to watch this weekend, there's two others, sorry, but the only real game I want to watch this weekend is the bloody battle of the two worst teams in the competition. It's bloody incredibly insane. I can't believe it.
It's the best.
I have already messaged my wife and said, I messaged my wife today already and said, make sure that we've got our calendars free Friday night. I want to watch this game. I can't freaking believe I'm doing that. Oh, it's incredible.
It, man.
Supercoach wise for that, if you've got, I think, and you sort of alluded to this when we were talking off air, but there's a lot of Supercoach relevancy in this game, and how good. The fact is that this would be if either of these teams were, or one of these teams was a little bit higher and had no guarantee of where the winner is not going to finish on the bottom, I reckon there'd be mass restings in this game. But because of that, there isn't. And so these teams have gone for what they can, have got the best teams they can put on the park based off what they can. There's so much Supercoach relevancy in this. Like, I think Lockie Galvin's a rad play this week. If you've still got Appy Carousel, play him this weekend. And then over on the para team, I'm a very, very happy Dill Brown owner.
If I've got anyone from either of these two teams, I'm playing him this week.
Yeah.
And if I've got trades left, I'm considering getting someone from these guys. It has to happen. This is going to be
I think
highest of stakes.
Gutho is a really good trade option for Turbo. I think that's a really
good
play. I don't have the balls for it. I'm going to be honest. I don't have the balls for it. But, geez, that's a good play.
Yeah, I think, obviously, when you start, we'll talk about the trade side of things with Turbo because that's the big one. But there's so much that can come from this game. And if you've got the kahunas for it, Gutho could be huge. Sevo could be huge.
Yeah, there's another good one. Yeah.
Obviously, it's risky and it can kill your season and it can, derail the last round, whatever. But it's the last week. If you're fine, you're content with where you are, you want to take a punt, why not? Why not have a bit of fun with it? This is an exciting game, as bad as it's going to be. It'll be a good one. Roosters versus the Rabbits. So I'm always down for a final round Roosters Rabbits game, even though, it doesn't go too well for the Roosters most of the time. I don't think it's going to worry about them this year. Suoli'i's back from his neck injury, so he's in the side. I am hearing a lot about Marky Mark making his debut, and
who's that?
Been a lot of. Oh, mate, I'm not even going to attempt to say his last name. I just hope they come out and say, this is what we're going to call him, much shortened version. But for the minute, Marky Mark, the most expensive debut center wing that Supercoach has ever added in.
74,600.
I don't know where they got that from. Like, what is it?
Hasn't
I mean,
played a game of NRL.
no, never. Should be bottom dollar.
He should be. Yeah, it doesn't.
Anyway,
It'd be interesting
maybe
to see
it's
what
just
they price him because they priced him at that next year.
I honestly, I still think he'll be in the 400s next year, just because it's one game, they won't change it.
It's insane.
I am seeing, I don't know how true this is, entirely speculation, very early days. Dom Young will be the one that sits out for him.
Yeah, okay. I haven't seen
And
that
that
myself.
sucks. Yeah, we'll see how that pans out. Obviously, everyone's talking about him getting a start. It's just wherefore I would imagine it's for Polgar, but again, who knows? Just have to keep an eye on it. But he is expected to start this game. Outside of that, there was obviously a bit of carnage for the Roosters last week. Sam Walker's out for the season with an ACL, so is Brandon Smith. So Sandon Smith replaces him at halfback and Connor Watson at the 9. So Nafahu White's at lock. So Tupanua starts in the second row as well. Bit of a shuffle there. So Terrell May back to the bench. He's been on the bench anyway. But for the Rabbitohs, Talis Duncan's lock. Damien Cook retains that spot. I was so worried about him getting a drop for Mamazelis, but looks like they're not doing that for him this year. He's just going to see it out. Hawkins stays in the 7. Outside of that, nothing too much changing for those guys either. So it's nuts how much the depth of the Roosters is, really. Still at this stage of the season, losing players that they've had. I think the halfback loss is bigger than, they can cover, but still, they don't look like they're skimping out at all. Dragons and the Raiders. What have we got going on for the Dragons and the Raiders? Moses Sully is back from his knee injury, and Little is back on deck as well. So he had a baby last week. So congratulations. Enjoy that. Hopefully it's been a good week for him. And yeah, sorry for any of the unlucky super coaches who didn't realize he was ruled out quite late. At least you've got him for this week. For the Raiders, Ethan Strange, Fogarty are on track to be the halves pairing again. So Strange is back in the 6, which is good. Kaya Weeks keeps fullback spot. He's been fine there. Tarpany is obviously a gun. Sasagi in the second row. Yeah, outside of that, pretty standard issue for both sides, actually.
That one should be a good game, and I love the timing of it. It's worked out perfectly because both of them, the winner has a chance to make the 8, and then they're hoping with the Knights and the Dolphins game that's a draw because
that's a draw.
That's the only way that those two teams are going to get into the 8 with that one. So there's still a mathematical chance, but yeah, it's
God. Could you imagine Golden Point with nothing? Yeah, no. You'd be paying a shit ton if it does. Dogs versus the Cows.
And the only reason why I say that is because their point differential is atrocious.
Yeah.
So the Raiders are 129 minus and Dragons are a minus 124. So unless they can catch up 120 in the point differential, the winner of the Knights Dolphins will be in the 8, unless it's a draw. It's the only way that they can mathematically get. But in all fact, the draws worked out perfectly because they get to play that game early, and the Knights Dolphins game's not till Sunday, I think. So it works out really nicely for our NRL fans out there.
Bloody exciting little insight there, mate. I can't wait to see a draw this week.
Yeah, between those two. It'd be fantastic.
It would be huge. It would be honestly the biggest game of match fixing I'd ever seen. So great to see it. Dogs and Cows. So Crichton's back in. Bronson Cherry's out. Obviously, Matt Burton's out with a concussion. So the most popular trades of the last 2 weeks, really. Sam Walker, Matt Burton. We lose them for the last round. So it doesn't sting as bad thinking, I should have gone Burton instead of Walker or vice versa. They're both gone. So Cherry Evans came out on top in the end. Or, I don't know, who else could you really put up there? The halves have been quite poor for the last couple of weeks. Drew Hutchison back in the 5'8". There you go. So that's one for you this week if you want to get a terrible trade in. For the Cows, Thomas McKaylee back on the bench. Nothing too notable outside of that. Finifuriaki's in the mix too. So pretty standard stuff. The Cows look pretty good. Haven't had too many woes to worry about as of late. Panthers and the Titans. God. Panthers and the Titans. What are the Panthers going to come out with this week? Scott Sorensen is set to make his return from his hamstring. Thank the Lord. He's back a little bit too late for anyone with the, I suppose, mainly around the draft end. Luke Garner goes back to the bench. Matt Eisenhuth drops out. Obviously, Supercoach wise, we're not going to see Nathan Cleary back, but for the finals, we probably will next week. Schneider and Luai just keep the halves pairing going. So yeah, no Cole. Didn't happen. For the Titans, Keeney's back in, which is great for them, but they also lose David Fafita. And honestly, I don't think that's a major loss for him in the last few weeks that he's been playing for him, been pretty poor. Obviously, he gets his surgery that he's been needing for supposedly a little while with his ankle, but yeah, it's an early season end for David Fafita and a bad week for him to drop out for, but nothing too major outside of those ones.
Supercoach Goldmine there on that Panthers team, I think.
Oh, yeah. This is a good week to be buying in some Panthers players.
Yep.
I think if you've got trades, if you've got two and you don't have really much to worry about on the fullback side of things, obviously Fafita's a good trade out. You're not going to have him for much longer. I really like Yo. I just think
I think
Yo's
that's a really good point. Like he had a big score last week.
yeah.
He's against a pretty weak Titans middle. Yo's ball playing this ability this week will be huge. I think that's a really good shout out. I think Brian Toto's due for something big. And I reckon they might play through him a little bit more going into the finals just to try and build a bit of confidence. I think Dylan Edwards is going to have a monster score this weekend. They're going to put I think the Panthers are going to put on at least 40. So there's at least 20, 30 points in kicking that he's going to get. So yeah, I think Dylan Edwards is due for a big score and one of my trade options I'll talk about soon.
Yep. Manly and the Sharks. Cooler replaces Turbo at fullback. So big one. I was actually thinking about who was going to do this earlier in the week when he went down, and I thought potentially Hopewadi would go back to fullback again, considering they've run with him. But he's obviously found some success out on the wing. He's been playing quite well, scoring tries, so they've kept him out there. Yeah. We all know how Cooler went in the last round last year. Obviously, they played the Tigers last round of last season, and he scored 180 something. Or was it the Dogs? It was one of the Dogs or the Tigers. It's the Sharks this year. It's not as easy for him. But either way, I still think he does quite well. Not too much happening else for the rest of the Manly side there as it is. For the Sharks, Ramian's back after last week, and so is Mulatalo. So they're getting their strength back into the side right before finals. The side looks pretty much as full strength as it could possibly be, to be fair. But Sifa Talakai drops right out of the team, out in the reserves at the moment. So, and Stone Street too. That's a bit rough. That Stone Street's been an absolute weapon last month. So, much going on there, man.
Big game. I think, again, this is a bit of Supercoach and NRL news, but Manly are playing for a home final spot. I think Bulldogs and Cowboys. One of them's got to lose. Well, not doesn't have to. There could be another draw, but that would be hilarious. But let's say one of them is a loser, which is the most likely situation, and Manly win. They jump up to 6th spot and get a home final. So, that's really important, especially if it's a Cowboys loss. Cowboys drop down, so then it's now Cowboys having to travel instead of Manly having to go to them. So this is an important game and a big one, and so. And the same for the Sharks. They're not going to, with their differential. The Bulldogs are 5th, but 70-point differential behind them. So the Sharks have locked a 4th spot as a minimum. They go and win this game, and the Roosters lose, or the Panthers. Well, Sharks have a better point differential than the Panthers. So there's a potential for the Sharks to get to 2nd. So there's a really, really big game. And really important. And I think because of that, there's going to be some good Supercoach scores. I actually think Cooler into fullback is a really good pod play this week. Just another one that if you've got the balls to do it, that's a good trade out. If you've got him, or if you don't have him, and you're a turbo owner, that's a really good play. And I think Cooler actually helps the rest of the Manly play in terms of Supercoach wise, with the ball and where it goes. So I'm pretty excited about that. And then in terms of the Sharks, well, Prince Nico Hines, as everyone likes to call him, is in his second game. He looked a bit rusty last week, but that was his first game back in a while. So
Could have had a lot more though. Could
he
have a
did.
lot more points. That's the
He could
thing.
have. Yep,
Yeah.
he could have. But he did look a bit rusty too. So I
Mm.
think the rust plus the luck of the draw with what happened last week, I think he's a bloody good play if you want to go that way. Like that's again another option that we'll talk about soon for Walker. But yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Next one up, Sunday, we got Knights and Dolphins. So obviously this is the big one when it comes to that 8th spot, I suppose. They're both playing for it, and this is where it's either going to be an absolute motter of points or it's going to be an arm wrestle because they can't afford to slip up. But for the Knights, Frizzell's back in. You're potentially looking at Pierce Paul making his way back as well from that leg injury the laceration that he had, and Tyson Gamble too coming back in for the halves potentially. So outside the team looks pretty much the same, and it pretty well does for the Dolphins too. Hammer stays at the centers. So does Drake Averillo in the 6. Plath keeps the 9. Team looks the same. So bit of consistency for the Dolphins as of late, but consistently doesn't count when they're losing. So that's it for team lists, man. That's kind of where they all come to. So
do you want to I just want to point out about Ponga. He's rewarded us people who got him in when we at the exact time we asked to get him in.
Yeah,
who was the player? Can you remind me who was the player that Joel said he's going to bank that Ponga's not going to? This other player is going to outscore Ponga. Can you remember?
When?
A couple of weeks ago on the pod, Joel came through and said that Ponga will not score very well the rest of this game, the rest of this year, and that someone's going to score better than him, and that's the pod play, and he reckons that should have been what we all should do.
Honestly, I don't know.
And I want to put it out to the public because Ponga's been good.
He's been very good. Who was it? I'm curious.
Oh, what? Let us know, please. Someone tell us.
Oh, we'd have to go back and listen. You don't know either?
No, I can't remember.
God, it's probably a month ago now. Geez,
and he had a go at us for keeping Ponga. I just want to point out because he always tells us how good he is. He always tells us how much he's right, but he's really actually not.
No, and to be fair, it was Ponga that won the head-to-head last week for me because
come back to
we had 4 differences. That's a thing too. Like I make my trades, and all of a sudden, Joel, oh, what trades you do, man? Oh, wow, I did the same as you this week, man. I did the same as you. I'm like, oh, yeah, that'd be right, wouldn't it? Until I inevitably run out of them. But yeah, the Ponga was the difference. And I suppose I'm the actually, you know what? We were even talking about it before too. All 3 of us had a different combination of the 3 gun fullbacks that you could have, and I'm the only one that sort of got out of this unscathed. I avoided getting on turbo. Not because I wanted to be honest. Not just really because I couldn't afford it at the time. I went for the Ponga route. Glad I did. He's been very good. Won me the head-to-head. Now I don't have to worry about trades because I don't have any left. And that
luck of the draw, isn't it? That's Supercoach.
That's exactly it. 100%.
That's sport.
But we can kind of segue that into the trade talk, really, because it's Turbo. Like he's the guy. He's the one that's most popular traded out option this week, obviously. In pretty much every bracket of percentage for the player base. So top 10 is where we'll look. And Turbo is 25% traded out in the top pack, which just makes sense. It's the last week. Obviously he's a lot of coin. He's about 1 mil, which is nuts. He made himself all the way up to 999,000.3. So big bicky for Tommy Turbo. Gives you the option to go to anyone. Realistically, the most traded options for him are going to be the ones that are most price dependent too. Like if you've got that much money to spend, you get the guy who's the most expensive. So you start looking at Teddy if you don't have him, Ponga, obviously, if you don't have him as well. But I feel like there's still good options outside of these two if you're trying to make up ground, and that's basically what this last week is going to be about. It's just making up ground. Um, getting in Tedesco is a fantastic buy if you don't have him already. But again, if you're in the top 10%, you don't have Teddy. I don't know how you are, and everyone does already. So it's like, and if you didn't have him this week, everyone's going to have him now anyway. So, you can jump on board and just ride the last round for the Teddy wave, or you can skew it a little bit. There's a few fullbacks this week that I really like, and I don't see them in the midst of it all. I've got Dylan Edwards. I think he's, regardless of time of season, Dylan Edwards have never been in the discussion. Even when he was tunning up for like 2 months in a row, I still didn't feel like Dylan Edwards was the guy that people talked about. You've got an opportunity to get him. They've got a great matchup. He's kicking again. All depends, actually. Alamotti kicked last week, so have to see what pans out there. But still fantastic. The rest of it, you kind of got to go a little bit cheaper than the top dogs. I think Sua Falongo for Melbourne is a fantastic pickup for a fullback. I think Gutherson's a good pickup for a fullback this week. I think Cooler is too. I think there's plenty of options this week, and you're only picking it for a 1 week play. You basically it's a head-to-head shootout. Who do you think scores more? You don't have to worry about long term. It's take a punt now. Who would be your fullback of choice? I suppose with this, you've got him and you've got a trade. So
I do. I have a trade. I do have Turbo, and I'm at this point in time trading. Look, I'm playing with a few options. I'll talk about probably my top three once we've finished all the chat. But I really, really like. I'll give you. You've named them, but I'll give you three to trade in. First one is Dylan Edwards is number one, I think. I just think he's due for a goldmine Supercoach score this week against the Titans. Titans are leaky as last week. Yeah, I think the Titans are just going to go. Plus Penrith are at home, so I think Titans are just going to turn up, get it done, get the game over and done with, and get home and have Mad Monday.
yeah,
and party through the Gold Coast down at Cavill Ave. I think that's just going to be a write-off for the Titans, and I think the Penrith are about to give them a pasting. My second one is what you just said before. My second favourite option is Sua. I just think he's in. He's playing for a final spot, and more so probably playing for that 14 spot over Wishart. I still can't believe that that's even a conversation as a Storm fan. I think Wishart's got that number 14 and has to have that number 14 because he's a gun, and he's good at that role, and the Storm make him good at that role because of what's around him and what he can do for that. But I think Sua is a fantastic option, and he's ready to explode. Hasn't really exploded much this year, but we've been able to see him do it. Like, we can see it in him. So now he's going to go and sit there for 80 minutes against a pretty horrible Broncos team that, again, are also probably going to go jump down with the Gold Coast Titans in Cavill Ave and have a good Mad Monday because they're out as well. So, and there ain't no one in Brisbane going to want to see those pricks this weekend, next week, after the way that they've finished this season. So,
no, not at all.
So I think Brisbane will be avoiding the city at all costs for Mad Monday, and we'll be jumping down somewhere at down on the Gold Coast with the boys. So that's my number two, and I'm going to give you someone that I think we've kind of talked about it earlier. But who I think is a really good play this weekend, and that's Gutherson, King Gutho. Potentially his last, there's so much talk around him not being fullback next year. So it's potentially going to be his last hurrah as the fullback. Against a pretty crappy West Tigers team on the last week of the round, avoiding the last week of the year, avoiding the wooden spoon. I think Gutho's about to, I think he's going to explode and is in for a big one. I want to give you a smoky, and he's not my top three, but I'll give you a smoky. And that's Fletcher Sharp.
Mate,
And
he's been scoring hat tricks minimum
yeah,
each game.
yeah.
It's
And I
ridiculous.
think he's potentially got that against the Dolphins this weekend.
Who's the other
Round
ones?
23 against West Tigers, he put up 125. Against the Sharks, he got 52. Against South, he got 62. And then last week against the Titans, he got 132. I think
Nuts.
against a leaky Dolphins team, and I think that game defense is probably going to be at a minimum, and it's just going to be
Yeah.
offensive power all over the park, just offense, 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 and someone has to score. And I reckon that's going to go through Fletcher Sharp, and he's a very ballsy play, but I think he's a smoky.
Yeah. And that's the balls, man. Like you've got one shot to pick a good fullback and you're picking the
Throw the
night
dart.
swinger. Yeah.
Throw the
It's
dart.
over all the more viable picks, but you can't knock him for it. I think that puts him running up against Herbie and Bostock. I think, if I've got that laid out correctly. I don't like that as much for him. But again, he's been doing it week in, week out. I don't see any reason why he can't continue to do it. It's just the kid's a natural born try scorer. It's just he's found a good spot on the wing there. So um, yeah, hell ballsy on that. But I do see it actually paying off for people. And this is kind of the week like last year, Cooler was cheap. Cooler was a 2 week fullback. Ended up scoring 180 points. So you sort of have to run the risk. But yeah, still it doesn't deter people from the most popular trades of Ponga and Teddy. So still fantastic picks, still great captains. Third most popular because obviously Turbo's taken up the first two. Sam Walker, yeah. So a lot of recent tradies getting him in. Both of us got him in recently. You traded Jerome Hughes for him. I traded Cleary out for him. So a little bit different on our side because I think that puts you in a position where you don't have a halfback.
Not at the moment, no.
No.
So, yeah, I'm playing that option at the moment as to what I do there. I have the same sort of thought as 375 other super coaches that there's a really good play is Jerome Hughes this weekend. I think he's a great play. Yeah, the option is either I go. It was whether I grow the balls to tell everybody this is what I'm thinking I might do here, or do I not? So, but I'm going to do it. I
Do it.
think that I've got Sam Walker, and now I certainly 100% regret that I've got Sam Walker. Wish I had kept him for Jerome Hughes. I missed Jerome Hughes's 65 the first week that I traded him out for Walker's 40 odd. Then I missed his 130 last 2 weeks ago, and then obviously last week against the Cowboys he didn't play, but neither did Sam Walker basically. So I've lost that trade, and now I've got Sam Walker out and Jerome Hughes is playing. So that was the trade that I did a few weeks ago. Regret that. Just another one of my reasons why I'm not in the top 10K. But I think Jerome Hughes is a really good play this week. However, do I think Jerome Hughes or any other halfback? The only other halfback I would consider this weekend is Jerome Luai, and I'm not going to consider him. I don't like him that much, to be honest. And even though I think they're ready to go and give the Titans a pasting, I think Jerome Luai might just be due for a bit of a once they do give them a bit of a spray, and he might be one just to sit out because he's had a big year. Like in all the things that he's had to endure this year to keep Panthers where they are, it's on the back of a lot of work that he's had to do. Like he's had to navigate Cleary injured twice. He's had to navigate playing Origin. He's had to navigate Dylan Edwards being out as well. And all the issues and things that's happened within injuries in that team. So he's had a big year. So it could be a really good chance for him to sit out. So I don't like that play as much.
Yeah.
But the play is, and the decision for me is, do I go Jerome Hughes, and do I think Jerome Hughes is going to score more than a fullback?
That's the thing, because you go for a fullback because you've got Ponga.
Yep.
So you'll have a fullback to play. but you won't have a half. So you'd be copping an AE. So you'd be basically just saying, I can get my chance at a free loop, which is
That's right.
valuable. You get yourself a valuable free loop for the last round. You get an AE of potentially who?
So for me, the AE would be Marnie off a 78,
Well,
Plath, who keeps getting 50s and 60s.
okay.
And at the moment, who have I got? Marnie, Plath, and no, that's it. Just an AE between those two.
Oh, wow. Oh, Jesus. Okay. I'd be pretty happy, to be honest, to just get myself another fullback. I think what you have as a possibility, the potential, like, okay, Marnie, what's he going to score you on a real bad week? The last few weeks, what's in the 30s, which is not as likely as a 50 out of him. I would hope, especially not for Plath. Like you could pretty much bank, ideally, I would say a 50 out of your AEs, which not bad.
Yeah, I
It's not
hope
bad.
so. Oh, and look, I got that wrong. So if I go and get a fullback, I have to put the R on that fullback, which means I have to take it off one of Campbell, Euro, or Isako.
Oh, well, that sort of changes it a bit.
So that'll give me three possible AEs.
Mm,
So yeah, so that way, then I'm playing the fullback I bring in. So I've just got to decide whether I play. Yeah. So then the AEs are either going to be Marnie, Plath, Campbell, Eero, Isako, whichever one of that mixture I don't put as the reserves.
what are you leaning towards?
Um, at the moment, I've got the reserves on Katoa, Eli Katoa, which I think is a no-brainer. So I'm not even going to think
100%.
about that.
Yep.
My other one is Eero, which I think is a no-brainer. I'm going to do that. And I'm sitting on Campbell and Asako. I'm going to put it on Asako.
Yeah.
I'm deciding whether it's Campbell, Isako, Plath, or Marnie is going to be. So a mixture, three of those four, if I
God,
do the fullback.
you got some options this week. I'm freaking hell. I'm looking at my side and I'm like, if I get one more out, I've got no chance. But again, you've had depth in your side for quite a while, so it's definitely helpful. Man, it's a tricky one. It really is. I like Jerome Hughes. I think Jerome Hughes is a great pickup. I still feel like he scores tons of points and he doesn't put you in a position where you need an AE. Um, but again, at the same time, it's like there's a lot of good fullbacks this week. Probably better fullback options than Jerome Hughes currently is. Um, like you don't have Teddy, could be a good one. If you We've obviously spoken about some of these other fancy pods. I like the Dylan Edwards play. I really like the Dylan Edwards play. And you get a crack at doing what you want to do VC wise. So I suppose you got tomorrow to work it out, but whatever
And so
feels
does
right.
everyone that's listening who's in the same sort of boat or in a similar boat who's kept
Mm,
Cleary because you couldn't trade him out and went Walker. And now you've got Walker as well. You're playing with
yeah.
those sort of options. There's plenty of people out there based off the amount of trades that are being done.
Mm. If
Yeah, so there is options there. It's a tough one. I'm still undecided yet as to where I'm going to go, but I think I'm more so leaning towards a fullback,
yeah,
just because I think fullbacks have got a bigger and better, more consistent ability to go big. Jerome Hughes could just go about his motions and get an 80, 90 this weekend
yeah.
and just sort of just play himself into getting ready for next weekend. My other thing is how much does what's just happened to the Roosters and them pretty much, well, as most of us are saying, has basically ended their run for a premiership this year, play on the minds of Bellamy and even other teams that in literally one game a season can be ruined.
Mm,
So I just wonder how that plays on the mind of some of them too, because at the end of the day, this game against Broncos is just a game that we have to play because it's in the draw.
yeah.
I actually I watching that Cowboys game. I get it, but I was really surprised that they played Pappenhausen and Munster. We know what happened with Pappenhausen. He's got bone bruising and potentially going to miss finals, or some part of the finals. And they played Munster. Now that they've seen that Pappenhausen's injured and seen what's happened to the Roosters, how much does that play on their mind as to what they go and do? And other teams too.
Just with potential restings from
Restings or just, not
taking them easy.
Yeah.
No, it makes entire sense. Like you wouldn't expect Melbourne to go out there with their pedal, like foot flat down and just, going for blood. I don't see the reason for it. It's not worth the risk. They just have to see the game out, make sure no one gets injured. So
That's right.
you'd hate to see anyone come off midway and play 60 odd minutes or even less, half time, and they just come off and that's them for the week. But there's every chance it happens. Geez, if you're anyone out there, I'd love to see. Well, I'd hate to be in your position, but anyone that lost Sam Walker, Matt Burton, Tom Turbo,
In 1 week.
Pappenhausen last week, if you had all four, messages and
Please.
just so we can see. I just want to see how many out there. But I know there's a fair few teams. I've seen them that have Burton and Walker and Turbo. Plus, you're going into a Warriors bye. So if you've got Fanua Blake or Barnett, David Fafita getting down as well. So there's a few. All of a sudden, you have a full strength side, and then team list comes around and you're 6 people down without realizing. So big outs. But yeah, if you've got the trades, these are the next few trade outs. Obviously, besides the top 2 that are the most popular ones. Fanua Blake, we all knew the bye was coming. Last week was their last round, so unusual to see a front
I'm
rower
quite.
so high up.
Yeah, I'm really envious of people who are making that trade.
I know. If you've got trades to be
You're
trading
making-
a front rower out,
Yeah,
round 27.
and look, they're getting in Kalen Ponga, but damn, like, how are you? Yeah, bloody hell. Oh,
But there's still
and James
people
Tedesco.
trading.
So
Yeah.
of all the coaches who are traded AFB, I'll look a bit further
Joe
up.
Tarpany.
AFB's Joe Tarpany. So you
Yeah.
didn't have Joe Tarpany. I've had Tarpany for most of the year, but then you go down and it's Ponga and Tedesco, and it's like, man, like, geez, I wish I had that opportunity
Those
to do
jewels.
that.
I know.
But
The
you
jewels.
don't the jewels, but then you've obviously either got another trade because you're trading in. You've got to fix up Turbo, Walker, Cleary, and stuff as well. Like, God, I'm envious of those people.
Yeah, well, all you got to do is just leave a booster side and 3 trades, and you've got it all in the bag. But God, you could have some fun this week. Shit, I've been looking at the trades going through, and like the trade outs, obviously AFB for Feeder, Cleary, Burton, McLean, Marzu's a popular trade out this week because he's just been pretty boring, pretty average.
Crap.
Everything's going right hand side, Fletcher Sharp, so kind of got that one wrong. But Mitch Barnett, number 10, Kyle Ero. He has been on the most popular trade out list every single week for the longest time. When are people going to learn? Don't trade him out.
And keeps putting up a decent score. So
yeah, it's like he'll put up an 80, 90, and you go, I'm going to trade him next week. And then he puts up another 90, and you go, I'm going to trade him next week. It's like, just see him out.
$512,000, mate. He's made.
That's huge. That is huge. But
he just got 61 on the weekend and still went up 14.9K. Like, he's still making money.
God love him. I'm going to miss him next year, eh? I still think he might even be worth a buy next year, even at his bloody 650K price tag.
Oh, I think there's too many. There's too many center wingers in there. That's good. But geez, he's been awesome this year.
Has been an absolute gun. The popular trade-ins, we have discussed quite a fair few of them already, but obviously Ponga, Teddy, Hughes, they're a given. Dylan Brown, I really like this week. I think for the Sam Walker move, I think Dylan Brown's a fantastic trade-in because he's got that dual half. Price-wise, it's irrelevant. He's cheap. He's 600. You can easily afford him. It's against the Tigers. It's Dylan Brown. You saw what he did last week. Finally put a bit of quality up. You've got him. I'm jealous you've got him. It's going to be great. I've got Galvin. That was my option at the time, was go one or the other. I opted to stick with Galvin. It's been pretty good. But they play each other this week, and it's going to be a battle between the 2 5'8s, you'd imagine, but because they essentially run their entire sides. I think he's a good captain shout, or at least a VC shout.
I've got the VC on him at the moment. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's fair. It's a fair play. Number 5, Joe Tarpany. So if you've got that front row forward trade, there's Joe Tarpany. Such an unusual trade in for this week, considering the upside that you want. You're not really going to get out of a front rower. Isaiah Yo, I do like this trade. He has been an absolute gun since we spoke about him at 540k. Obviously, coming off all the quiet Origin games and the resting ones, and he just bottomed out hardcore. So he was inevitable. He was always going to bounce back, but way more than I'd expected. I always considered him a 70s to 80s guy, but he's been putting up tons,
Yeah,
most
last 2
weeks now
rounds,
too.
102, 122.
Yeah, and they just spiked dramatically too. Pretty much the week that we said, yeah, maybe he's actually a good buy after his 60s. 86, 102, 122, like you just mentioned. Massive. I think for a Fafita trade out, I don't think there's really many other second rowers you need to trade out to get him in, but you could do much, much worse. I really like it for them this week, especially Titans. Number 7, Nico. I'm looking at the all coaches, so he's different in the other one. Sorry, in the top 10, it's actually shifted. I was looking in the all coaches bar, but Nico's a popular trade in number 5 in the top 10%. Have you got much about Nico? What are your thoughts on him this week?
I really like the Nico Hines play there.
Yeah,
I think, well, the Sharks have to win. It's got to come through Hines. I think, yeah, I really like the option. I'm toying about that too. So I'm glad we got to this point now, so I can talk about that. So currently my 2 trades that I'm thinking of is Walker to Hughes or Walker to Hines. I'm talking myself out of the Hughes play more and more, and think Hines is a better play. I think, as we said, Hines was rusty last week, but still had the potential to have a much bigger score. I think this week it's he's on. And I think we're going to get a score out of Hines that we're used to getting as a halfback, and he looks a lot more like the Hines of Supercoach Gold Wise. And then my other 2 plays are the Turbo trade, and I go to Teddy or Dylan Edwards are my 2 Turbo trades that I'm
yeah,
looking for. Yeah, I really
yeah,
like the play. I think I think he's due. The Sharks are playing to get a home final, essentially pushing up into second. They're probably trying to. They're also playing for an avoidance of the Storm. I don't think anyone really wants to play the Storm at this point in time now, with all the injuries and stuff that's happened to all the other teams. That you don't really want to be meeting the Storm. You want to try and get Penrith and the Roosters in the first week. Get one of those 2 teams, because there's no guarantee Clear is back next week. And actually, I keep hearing more and more that he's not. And we know what's just happened with the Roosters. So you want to try and get them early before and not last in a prelim. So
yeah.
I think they're playing for a lot. And I think that's going to ride on Mr. Hines.
Yeah, and that's the thing with Hines is that even when he plays poorly, he usually outscores most of the good halves in the game. So
He just
his what
miraculously gets points, like they're
he
magical
just
points, eh? Like just,
he just racks them up,
yeah.
and he always finds a way to, like, in his worst games, he'll still manage to put out a 60 or a 70, and you're thinking, shit, I'm stoked with a 70 from any other half besides Cleary and Hughes most of the time, really. But Hines just always finds a way, and he almost had more. I think he had a try disallowed at some stage last week, and other things that got pulled back, but could have been much, much higher in a very rusty performance, like you mentioned. So, yeah, I don't mind it. I really don't mind it at all. You just one of those inevitables. I did miss a player, popular trade in for the 10. It was Suafar longer, but we have talked about him. So he's really only popular in the top 10%. I suppose it's more people just looking to capitalize on the 1 week. Going down the ranks, the last 2 that we haven't spoken, Jerome Luai, Clint Gutherson. So you've had a bit of a piece on Luai. Yeah, I don't know. Like, there's a chance that he does quite well, but realistically, I think there's better options this week than going there if you've got maybe 1 or 2 trades, maybe nothing like most, but quite limited. But the Gutho play, I really like this one. I really do. I had Gutho for the longest time last season. I found great success with him.
Same.
Um, and like he's played quite well against them earlier this year. Round 4, he put 109 up against them at Campbelltown Stadium. So you can do it on him, especially against the Tigers. He's got a pretty good record against them, but this is the biggest game of the year for them. They really aren't going to want the spoon. Again, neither are the Tigers, but he'll just have more quality about them as a team. Like you'd have to expect Gutherson to get up for it. So um, the opportunity's right there. You lost the fullback. Here's a fullback that can do it. And what are the chances he's still kicking goals too? Probably missing them, but he'll be the one kicking. You almost
Oh,
don't want him to.
can you imagine the uproar if it gets to he's got a kick to win the game and avoid the spoon and he misses.
You'll
God,
Yeah.
anything para fans can get to have a go at him. It's just
Oh god.
unreal, and they take it. They chomp at the bit for it. Unreal. Um, yeah, I love it. I love that call. We said it. We said it really early in the team reviews that Gutho's a really good play. This is your you've got the dart throw of who to throw at. You've got
Yeah.
one or two trades. You've got the weekend. If you're not in for the a lot of the leagues are finished for head to heads.
Mm.
There are still some that said that they wanted to play to the end, but we'll ignore that. But we like you've got people now just trying to get as big a rank as you can and push up a little bit higher. And
Yeah.
I think the dart thrower Clint Gutherson is a really ballsy play, but a really safe one. I think that's probably one of the most safest picks. Because I think
Mm.
it's safe to say that Gutho can get 100. I don't think it's safe to
Oh.
say some of those other guys. I mean, Teddy will, but I don't think it's safe to say others are going to get a big score. I think we're just going for that because they show upside.
Mm. But yeah, no, he can definitely do it. That's the thing. Like he's done it. He did it majority of last season. He's done it this season, and even the last few weeks, he's been putting up really good scores. I just had a quick look for anyone looking to make rank. Obviously you need the pod. Gutherson's ownership in the top 10%. He's owned by 90 teams out of the top 16,000 something teams that are in there. 0.9% or 0.6%. Sorry. So you can't go wrong with that. And if you're looking at for a VC or anything, far out, you get in the same sort of position as the Dylan Brown play. Most popular VC by 0.0%. There will be no one that's doing that. And if I had a trade and a position to do it, if I had Turbo, man, I would be looking at Gutho this week. I just think everything's lining up perfectly for him. For this, now watch him score 40 points. So
And constantly keep making a fool of us. I keep just every time I see his name, Hamso Tabui Fado, I bloody dread that. Oh, he's my play. God.
yeah,
God. I was all in on him. I was
can't get
all
them
in on
all.
him. This screams the same type of thing.
It really does. I know it really does. But I suppose there has been a couple in the last few weeks that we've spoken about that have gone well. Yo was obviously a big one. Toto, we did mention that. Obviously, Joel got on him, and I'm glad he did because he didn't score very well last week, and I was able to beat him. So there's a couple you miss, there's a couple you get right, but I don't know. Something feels good about that one. Your sits and starts this week, they are going to probably be around your trades, I'd imagine, considering you've mentioned a lot of it's got to do with your AEs and getting in a half, but I suppose I don't really have the luxury on my end. So you're not going to have anything pretty well locked down tonight, are you?
Not really, no.
No.
I am just going to sit there and think more and more about it. I'm tending to go. I'm leaning much more towards the fullback way. Sorry, which means I do need to pick who I'm going to sit, and that'll be between Isako, Campbell, Plath, and Marnie. So which one of them is going? Am I going to put the R on because the other three of that four will end up being my AE option,
Mm.
which gives me a free hit at the captain. So Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
I'm leaning towards. I'm even considering, to be honest, I'm actually probably now thinking about even more of sitting Marju and playing Isako.
Yeah. You got a Zarko against
The
against each other,
Knights.
really, aren't they?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it would be
I think they're
if they're
actually
up
playing
against each
against each
other.
other. Yep.
They are squaring up against each other. I think out of that, really, like I don't know, I'd probably be taking a Zarko. Mainly just the Knights are going right for everything. I think Herbie's edge is going to get pelted a little bit more harder than a Zarko's will, but he kicks. There'll be some points in it. It's going to be it's going to be a try fest.
Yeah.
It's just the fact that it is at the Knights' home, so you just got to
The
consider.
more I think about it, the more I don't play JC against Penrith.
I wouldn't be playing JC against Penrith personally,
And that's
and I wouldn't be
and
playing Marnie either.
that'll be my AE.
Yeah, I
Marnie
think
against the Cowboys is different.
I just don't see much there for him.
Well, I didn't see much there for him last week, and he got 78.
Yeah, we'll look at Brayley too. Lucas scored well last week for whatever
Yeah,
reason.
for
Um,
first time ever.
yeah.
Yeah, but I'm happy. I'm not going to play money, but I'm happy to just secure his AE at worst. I think
Oh, definitely.
he's not going to be my worst one, so I don't think I have to worry about it.
Mm.
So yeah,
Yeah.
that's where my 6V starts.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I think you get a comfortable 40 at minimum, to be honest with you, man. I don't think it's end of the world stuff, but you got some good players to choose from. Like they could all score pretty well. Could be a comfortable AE. I don't have a great deal of the luxury, to be honest. I said the same thing last week, and I haven't really changed my sides much besides for feeder. I had to take the reserve off for feeder. Um, but I've got Team A starting. I've got one of my reserves on Sam Hughes, unfortunately. Um, really, my only option is my last reserve gets tossed between Sam Hughes or Jesse Arthurs, like it was last week. Um, I did play Jesse Arthurs last week, but I don't like it against Melbourne this week. Um, Definitely not as much as Sam Hughes against the Cows. Neither are good options. I don't think either are going to score more than 35 points, but I don't know.
Well, see, that's the other thing too, is that I've got bloody Sam Hughes sitting on there for AFB, so I have to play Hughes anyways.
Yeah, well, most people are playing Hughes this week because of that reason. So I feel like
Yeah.
I'm not missing as much going with him as I
No.
could,
So
any other
I
week.
talk about all these AEs, and I've actually got Sam Hughes sitting on my field. So
Yeah, yeah, missed it. My second row hasn't. I haven't lost anyone. I've got Crichton, Nakora, and Katoa starting. I just got Fafita on my bench, who's not been played this week. So that's where my R was. Obviously Sam Walker's out, so I got my Hughes play on. Galvin and Campbell's got a reserve this week because I don't have the options to not. So does Marzu and Tedesco. I've got on the reserve too. I've got my captaincy this week on Kalen Ponga. Subject to change potentially, but I do like Ponga this week. I think against the Finns, I think with what they've got to play for, I just like what he can do. I think he's just looked good. Yeah, hasn't scored many tries recently, but has been scoring pretty well without him. So if the tries come, like obviously we saw last week, he scored one. It was a pretty decent score, but I haven't thought too hard into my captains this week. I probably will change it up. I don't know. I'm still tossing up the Teddy swap. I do like Teddy against the Souths, but um, yeah, I don't know. I don't know yet. Might go a bit rogue with it. Might go for Lomax against the Raiders or something too. Just something completely left.
I was all in on Lomax last week. I actually think this week there's lots of options, and depending on how
There's a
you go
few.
with your pod, depending on how you go with your pod plays and things and what you do, there are obviously throughout this podcast we've mentioned other players that we think like a Gutherson, like Sewer, that you could potentially take a pod play with a VC on those guys. But I think Jerome Hughes is a good VC option on Thursday night. I
Yep.
think Gutho's a really good option. I think I've got the VC on Dylan Brown. I don't think anyone from the Tigers is locked in for a big score. So
Not really.
I'm not too keen going there. Very keen on the Roosters Rabbitohs matchup. There's some good plays there. Just bear in mind team mail and things of what happens with Marky Mark and who he comes in for. You said that there's lots of talk about Dom Young. I did read and hear that it was that Tedesco is one of the options. So just bear that in mind. But if Teddy plays, I think he's a no-brainer for a captain against the Rabbitohs. So I think that's a really good VC or captain option. I'm no interest in the Raiders Dragons game. I've got no interest in the Bulldogs Cowboys game. I think the Bulldogs defense can shut Cowboys down. And their scoring power. So like your VC or Cowboys players like your Val Holmes, Drinkwater, probably no. I wouldn't be putting any big captain VCs on those guys. And then I think the Panthers against the Titans is a gold mine.
Real good. Yeah.
And it's hard to throw. I don't know who to throw on that one. I think Dill Edwards is in for a big game. I think Toto's got to be ready for one. So there's some options there. And then my favourite captain option for this week is Ponga against the Dolphins.
Yeah. It's actually I will check where they sit for the most popular ones, and I believe it's probably going to be as expected. James Tedesco is the most popular, and he has been for forever this year. It's sort of a given. You just lock him. It's kind of the second one that you look at as the next option, which is Ponga. And I like it. I've got my captaincy on Ponga at the moment. I feel good about it too. I just might overthink it and see if I can change it up. The VC play is kind of where it's at. There's a lot of good options. The most popular VC this week, surprisingly enough, I don't know if it's not updated or not, it's actually Val Holmes. I wouldn't have thought Val Holmes against the Bulldogs would be a very popular VC option this week, but 24%, it's a pretty vast jump compared to the second, who is Jerome Hughes, who I've got my VC on this week. So Dylan Brown only at 8.5%. I feel like that's a bit criminal considering the score he just put up and the team he's about to play. So I do expect to see that a bit higher. But yeah, Lomax, Teddy's in there too, Munster. The VCs are always exciting. I like watching when people are a bit happier to take a pun on, considering most of the time they're not going to loop. It's more just, have a bit of fun with it. It's it's good. It's not predictable. But that's I don't know, man. That's essentially it for the last round of tradies, don't you think?
That is, that is.
There we are. So
thanks for hosting another show, Jesse.
Oh, mate, it's a pleasure. Always. I feel like tradies become I love the Wednesday show. I love our Wednesday trade, Supercoach specials and all that sort of stuff. They've been good fun this year, and even just having you jump on board midway through the season. I think next year when we can crack in and get everything running from round one, the team builders and all that sort of stuff, I'm super stoked to do that sort of thing there at the beginning of the year next year. So, mate, it's been a pleasure. We've still got more to come after this week. We've got a few videos in plans. We've got a team of the year style video as well. We've got our thoughts and favorite players and whatnot for who we've had in our teams and that kind of stuff. But mate, it's the last round.
Don't forget the most important one. Who's dead to us pod?
Oh, I love that. Yeah, who's in our no Christmas card list? It's
can't wait for that one.
Yeah, that's going to be a classic.
Ready to unleash.
I hope the players don't watch. It's nothing personal, boys. You guys just suck.
Just don't score enough.
Yeah, that's all it is. I know you're a great athlete, but God, you're a shit scorer. Mate, good luck this week. Hope you push up. Hope you lock yourself into the top 10K. You've been teetering around that. You're not far off, getting into the 9s or even lower. But I'll make my push for the 1. You make your push for as high as you can get, I suppose.
I hope so. I hope I've got the team ready to sort of jump another couple. I would love 1,000 spots, get close to that 9K. That'd be really nice. That'd be really good for the way that I've sort of gone this year. I've hovered around in the teens. So it'd be great to get into the top 10. So yeah, and then more importantly, dude, I hope some things work out for you. You might have to do a couple of little pod plays and your captain options to get that 400 rank spot for that. So hey, and as Joel says, if you're not first, you're last. So who cares? Make the pod play.
Yeah, that's kind of the direction I'm going. I need to make 120 points up over who's already at 1K to get into that bracket, and it might be a little bit too late. My last 6 weeks have been bloody flying. I've been real hot and going up the ranks pretty well every week, but I don't know. I feel like I need one more round to push forward, but we'll see. It'll be a good one. But yeah, good luck. If you've got trades, make the most of them. If you don't, like the rest of us, who cares? You got a team to set, so it's all well and fun. But yeah, good luck. Have fun, and we'll see you next week for a different video, I suppose. Not tradies. Have a good
Thank
one.
you, everybody. See you later.
See you, mate.